All right, all right. So we are live here on Powerpreneur, Reinvent Yourself. And this is our LinkedIn Live show where we're going to talk about a bunch of topics that are related to different areas of life. And today we have decided to talk about decision. I'm really excited. I want to give a warm welcome to Robert Lewis. He is a serial entrepreneur and he has figured out some stuff for sure, right? To be able to have three businesses now that are successful and you're diving into more and more opportunities out there.
Definitely.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely. So today's topic: how to develop better decisions. That's something that is so key to anything that we do, not just being an entrepreneur, but like everything as a parent, as individuals, as practitioners, or of course at the end it comes down to being an entrepreneur and business owner. But our decision making skills is what really defines us because that's what I've realized as an entrepreneur. We have to take a lot of decisions very short in a very short time. What would you say, Robert?
Definitely. And I've seen a lot of people who have decisions to make and they can't figure out which direction to take. And when you hesitate in business or in life in general, sometimes that you can lose opportunities. But at the same time, you don't want to jump into opportunities or situations unless you make the right decision. So I think this is a really important topic, and I'm glad we're able to do this show today.
Yes. So make better decisions is what we want to help our people with today. And I'm going to pull up our presentation. But meanwhile, why don't we dabble into getting to know you better? And I would love for you to share with our audience that what all you've tried and tested and what your journey's been. It would be a lot of fun to get to know you.
Okay, well, thank you. So I have a long, I guess you could say a long history as being an entrepreneur. I started, I believe, when I was 10 or 11 years old. I started raising quail and selling them to a local feed mill. So that was my first introduction or experience into business. And then through the years, I believe it was 21, I started my second business or real business. That was in the construction industry. And then I've had a few businesses since then, one in the solar industry, and since 2016 now in the health and wellness industry with magnetic therapy and other related biohacking tools for general
Nice.
health.
So you went
So
from construction to solar to health and wellness, huh?
yes, a lot of people are like, well, how did that happen? And it was actually primarily because of business opportunities, and that's how I kind of progressed. And it's also part of it is how I've been progressing as an individual, and I say maturing not in a general sense, but for me. And so it's like progressive stepping stones. Um, so it's exciting to be in this place now where I've had a few successful businesses, currently operating a successful business, and jumping into additional opportunities and revenue streams to continue to maximize everything. Um, and as we'll get into on this call, is like how do you make the right decision when you have an opportunity, and how do you choose the right opportunities? So look forward to
Absolutely,
getting into
right?
that more.
Yeah. So, what made you decide? Let's talk about your decision skills and how you've navigated through them. Like, you grew up with your dad understanding how to do construction trades, and that was something that you thought could be probably your rest of your life because that was the only trait you know at that time. And then how, like, making a decision to go from something that you've known all your life to something brand new, which is solar, is definitely not a part of the construction. You still have to go and learn a whole lot about it to
Right.
be able
A
to
lot.
implement, right? So, and you created a successful construction company and then a successful solar company. So like, what was that drastic decision change that drove you to do that?
So I think part of it for me was opportunity. Again, like I discussed before, but it was also part of I wanted to do something more technical, more advanced. I guess I had kind of got to the point where I felt like I outgrew the current construction business that I had at that point, which was actually in the drywall contracting industry. So then moving into the solar industry, it was for me, it was like a step up or a step into something more advanced. I learned all about solar cells. I learned how to design solar electric systems. I learned how to design solar hot water systems. So there's a lot of learning that took place, but then it's also getting into professional financials. We're dealing with more professional individuals who wanted to invest in a solar system. So for me, it was all part of growing. And one of my life, not sayings, but life principles has been you continue to grow and you continue to learn no matter where you are. So there's always this forward progression. So I think that's how I kind of stepped. I was employed for a while between 18 and 21, and 21 is when I started my first business. So there, part of that progression was because of always believing in growing and learning and advancing. And so some of those were based on opportunities that became available.
Absolutely. Wow. So a pretty big, huge leap of faith you've taken, let's put it that way. And you believed in yourself, right? And what was the reason for that?
That's an interesting question. So my the way I think about a lot of things is I don't consider myself a smart person, but I like to work with smart people and I like to work with professionals. So one of the things that I've always done in business and in life is to surround myself with other successful people and with people who are experts in their field. So for me, it doesn't really matter what I get into or what opportunities are there because I believe very, very strongly in having a very strong core of professionals that I can consult with. So I think that is part of what has helped my success is being able to not just rely on myself and my own knowledge, which of course I'm growing and developing, but it's connecting and reaching out to and consulting with people who are experts in a very specific field. And so that has helped me all along the way. I believe in teamwork, working with other professionals, working with other people who are more advanced than myself, and then it's kind of a coordinated effort to move forward together. So it's not just me, but it's working with a team. I believe that helps in a lot of cases.
Absolutely. So you made a decision to surround yourselves with high quality professionals who can help you shorten your curve. And that was a decision you stuck with instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. You made a decision to just put rims on that.
Absolutely. And
I
even
like
as a practical example, let's say something I've been working with recently. Let's say you need a website built or you need new landing pages. I could personally figure out how to do it, and I could take the classes. But for me, it's a wiser decision to work with professionals who are experts in doing that, and then save my time for the things that only I can do with my businesses. So
that's
that's just
very
like a
nice.
very basic example, but it's just working with professionals in the field, even though it's something you could learn how to do, it's working together with other people.
Absolutely. So I like this quote. It says, I'm not product of my circumstances, but I'm product of my decisions. So your circumstances were not very favorable to become a high level CEO, and you still made it happen, where you run a multi-million dollar company already and on your way to building more of that. And that is just phenomenal to do that because you came from a background where it couldn't have been possible to think that way because
Right.
your dad, as you said, he saw a lot of flaws in his business model, and that's why he couldn't scale or become highly profitable, or couldn't even duplicate his business. But you kind of picked up all of that instead of staying in that box that you actually grew up in. You saw the challenges and the growth opportunities and how you can scale, and you took that and then ran with it. Now
Right.
that was the decision to make, right?
Definitely.
It's
And again,
extremely.
it's the mindset of continual learning. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, there's things that you can learn. You can learn from other people all the time, and you have to be conscious of it, because if you think you've arrived, then you're putting yourself in a very dangerous position.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some of the factors, right? Like, I think it's really important to identify the factors that come in the way of, I would say, uh, they might not always come in the way, but they are definitely important to consider to be able to make the right decisions. And let's start dabbling into them. As it says, doubt. Like, who doesn't have doubt, right? We all self doubt ourselves. We have this real crazy thought that just suddenly cripples into us and kind of almost like hijacks our brain. And then we start going into this rabbit hole where our brain starts telling us all these things to get out of that situation. And that might be just a perception, which is also the next step. So, doubt creates anxiety. Doubt and anxiety together creates illusions, right? And then also discontentment. And then we become all straddle, and lack of concentration starts to take over. And we can even fail to recognize an important opportunity that's been presented, and then we could become numb to it because we don't want to make a decision. So they kind of go hand in hand, and we're going to talk a little bit about all of them. But isn't that crazy how like they all uh, go together to lead us to not taking a proper decision?
It is, and if I could just step in quickly on the doubt and anxiety, if I would have only been looking inward into myself, I don't think I ever could have done any of the businesses that I've been in. But since I work with and have surrounded myself with other professionals, and firmly believe in working with other professionals and experts in their field, I don't, it like completely erases the anxiety. Because, for instance, recently I've done some product design in the biohacking technology field, and I have the ideas about the product and how to build it, but I'm not an electrical engineer, I'm not a bioelectrical engineer, but I have those experts and those individuals who have the training, they have the expertise, and so as a team we can build things together, and we can accomplish things that I never would have been able to on my own. So that if you surround yourself with the right people, it completely erases the doubt and anxiety, because you know you have a strong team.
Absolutely. So I added a little music here. I hope you don't mind, Robert. It's like the lounge music, ambient
Oh, that's
music.
fine.
Awesome. Luis Martinez says that Luis Martinez says, amazing work, great presentation. So we got people watching and they're loving it. And let's talk a little bit about how like doubt, anxiety, and illusion is nothing but basically fear, right? So what
Right.
I've noticed, Robert, is we could either be operating from a place of fear or a place of love and contentment. And when you operate from the place of fear, there's a lot of different things that start happening, which will make us pretty much lose focus of what our purpose is or what we should be focusing on to even lead our life with. So there's so much noise and chaos out there that we have to make sure that we start working on cleaning up the energies around us, who we surround ourselves with, right?
Absolutely.
And you
And
you realize that just like me, that it's really integral part of our success and growth. And even not just that, like success is not just money, but I would say also living a life that is fulfilling.
exactly. Yes, because monetary success is only one factor of contentment and happiness in life. Um, and there's some things I'll touch on as we go a little bit further down. But as far as the illusions go, if we don't have the right mindset of being like not just being positive, but the right positive mindset about everything, and if we're not careful with our mindsets, then we can end up seeing all the hindrances, all the negative, all the things that could block what we need to accomplish or what we want to accomplish. So having the right mindset and surrounding ourselves with the right people, with the right energy, those are all part of even part of the decision making process, which we can get into a little bit more later.
Absolutely. So I really like this decision matrix because those points that are there, honestly, we could make a whole show out of that and talk a lot about it. And we can do that. But today was more of a general overview of how decision making actually works and what affects it and how to like work on getting better at it, right? So let's spend some time on this matrix here. I really like it. The elements of a good decision, right? So you see how they're all interlooped, right? So creative alternatives, useful information, which is data. Data is as good as oil right now, honestly. And then sound reasoning, commitment to follow through, helpful frame, clear values, and creative alternatives, right? They all go hand in hand. And a good decision makes sense and feels good when you actually like, do you know that feeling when you actually made a great decision and you know that there's no doubt that you invested in the right thing even though it was something over your budget that you were spending at one point.
Right. Absolutely. It makes you feel alive because you know you're walking in the right direction and making progress.
Let's talk about your solar company. Like, let's say you went from that was your first big decision you made from going from a blue collar area to a white collar type of a service where you're dealing more so with high level people because solar is definitely luxury still. We're not there yet where
Right.
it's a commodity, right? So going from that to this, like you had to definitely get into all dabble into all of these loops, even if it wasn't conscious, you did it subconsciously, right?
Right. So the creating alternatives, that was one of the keys because at that point in the construction industry and with the drywall contracting business, um, for a few reasons, the market had slowed down a bit. So it was becoming a bit more difficult to get more contractors or to get more projects. And the solar industry was also taking off at that time. So for me, it seemed like an obvious opportunity, but I didn't have the skills or the knowledge. So then it was a massive learning curve to jump into it. But because I made the right connections, I was able to move into that new industry. And of course, I grew through the process as well. So I started with just the solar hot water systems, and then after I was in that for a while, moved into the solar electric systems. And it was an awesome experience. I still wish I could sit down and design solar systems right now because I love the work and I love the creativity and the layout and all those things, and also just the business in general. For me, it was a very fun, enjoyable business. And you're helping people in a sense. It was like they're investing in their future. The investment in the solar system is a better investment than bonds with the government. So it was definitely a fun time, and it was putting together all of these things that made me comfortable to go into that business.
I agree. I just got solar, so I understand how valuable it is. And um, like let's move to some of these loops here. So you talked about the creative alternatives, useful information. So you went and had the whole learning curve
Right,
about what.
market research, all of those things, see what the activity is for the useful information. Then it's like leading into sound reasoning. It's like, okay, is this the right decision now? Is it the right decision for me? Is it the right decision as a business? So you have to go through all those things. And one of the points I wanted to touch on is in the decision making process is intuition. And how does something not from an emotional standpoint, but intuitively, how does it feel to you? Because if I could just touch on a couple of points that I had that kind of tie all this together in a few short words, all of us have our core principles that are part of who we are. It's how we were raised, it's how we learned, it's how we grew as individuals. So whatever you do or whatever opportunities you have, in addition to checking all these things, it has to line up with your core principles.
Exactly.
It also has to line up with your priorities in life, because you could have good opportunities, but if it's not one of your priorities, you're going to have to leave the new opportunity on the side and just stick with what your priorities are for that time.
And
And
that's
then your
fine.
priorities are somewhat connected into your goals and your long-term goals. Short-term and long-term goals. So when you look at your core principles, intuition, and goals, to me, those are three of the main components that help you decide if you should be stepping into a new opportunity, or even sometimes it could be relationships. There's a lot of different decisions that we have to make as we go through life. Um, but all of these things have to line up, because if it doesn't feel right to you and it's not in line with your core principles and where you're going in life, even though it could be good from a monetary standpoint, it's not necessarily the right thing for you to be involved in, because it doesn't line up with who you are as a whole.
Absolutely.
That,
And
that makes sense?
again, that was brilliant. That was so brilliant of you to share that. Like it's golden nuggets there. But I'm going back to the slide because it all comes back to the factors too, because you cannot even think that clearly if you haven't worked on clearing these factors that actually make up to decision making skills, right?
Right.
So that was a little shared there. Moving on to our next part, where what are some of the simple steps that we can really start implementing to start making better decisions? Because that's what I want to give our audience today is um, golden nuggets that, of course, we've been giving the whole time, but let's sum it up, and that way they can have more clarity, starting even like right after this presentation they can start working on it.
Definitely. And so I'll let you go if you want to jump into this. We'll start with the desired outcome.
Yes, so let's say for example with me, right, like my desired outcome was to live a lifestyle by design that I wanted to have enough freedom, but at the same time I wanted to change lives and have a large impact, right? So that was my like clarity on what I wanted my desired outcome to be from whatever path I was going to choose. What about you?
Absolutely. So if you know you want a life of freedom, that means everything that you do, and I mean freedom as in I think most of us are excited about business and excited about working, but if you want to choose to work on your own terms, and you want to be somewhat free to travel, you have to know what your goals are. For one, that's part of your desired outcome, is knowing what your goals are, and then you kind of plan around that. So then you can start to coordinate everything that you're working with to put you in that type of position.
Absolutely. And then rely on data and insight, right, to spot the patterns. Data, data, data. I went through data. The first time I launched my business, I didn't have data because it was in India and it was really hard to pull that. And that's why I really felt like I was shooting in the blind. And and there was no other way to do it for me at that time when I launched my sixth element, the lifestyle medicine sanctuary. But the second time, I hired the right coaches, had the data, I went with numbers and so many different things that actually played into making the decision on what really is the business model I want to pursue. So I guess it goes the same with you, right? When you went from solar to post electromagnetic therapy supply, PEMF, which we're going to put the link here so our audience can check it out, right? So what was the whole data analysis that you did?
So when I started the newest company, PEMF Supply, which that was in 2016, it was basically looking at the fact there was a massive need in the market, which is the U.S. market is our primary market. But there was a massive need in the market for an affordable magnetic therapy device. And to that point, up until 2016, the cheapest product on the market was around $4,000 to $5,000. So it was anywhere, the devices ranged between $4,000 and $6,000. We had a product that we were able to have the national distribution agreement for that cost under $1,300. So looking at what was out there and the fact that this product was available and putting the puzzle together from the data that was available at that time, we could see that this was a very good opportunity. And that was at that point started with a business partner. So when we started the company, within 3 to 4 months, things really took off because people were finding out, oh, now there's this affordable device. I think some people had been waiting for years for something like this to become available. So again, it was relying on, but basically you have all the puzzle pieces, which is all your data from the different sectors, and then putting it together, and then that gives you a clear picture of the opportunity in this case.
So the rest of the points kind of piggyback on that, because SWOT analysis is strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat of your business. So you did all that. You just spoke about it. You simulated the outcome, so you knew that what was the market and what numbers will look like, with how your projections are and what you're investing into. You trusted your instincts and you identified your cognitive biases, because we all have bias and we have to really identify what bias are we actually working on. Because think about this, like I'm big on the nutraceuticals that I put my clients on, and that's one of the sources of income that is really appreciated in my life. And I have a bias because as a pharmacist, I'm biased to products, and then I'm biased now as a person and my integrity to good products that actually do no harm.
Absolutely.
And I had to realize that, right? Like everybody has different biases. So you realize your bias, right? From that.
Right, and this is with magnetic therapy products in particular. It's helping people heal themselves naturally instead of using pharmaceuticals and drugs. So my whole mindset is more holistic approach and wellness approach. And there's so many things that could be like a whole other seminar on holistic health, but it all kind of fits into where I'm going as an individual.
Nice. So we have audience. Christopher says 333. I got my notice for this feed. Hello, how are you? So I guess it's 333 in the world where he is, which is awesome. And with that, Robert, I would say let's finish up our presentation, and we'll be back with a new topic and something that we can really talk about again and shed a lot of light on. And we'd love for our audience to really participate with us, right? So maybe we'll figure out some better days, because Mondays are really busy, but for me, it's easier to do it because I'm always stationed at home, because I have a lot of meetings that are already programmed. So I was like, let's do Monday, but we'll figure it out. And we can even ask them, right, what day works better for them to participate with us and do more of these. And I'd love to have you again and again because I love having our discussions because they're very not just philosophical, but it has a structure to it, and there's a great thought process, and it leads to a conclusion where our audience can really realize that there is so much more substance to these little things that we really don't pay much attention to.
Right, right. So for me, in closing, I would say you have to know your goals. You have to know your core principles. You have to know what your current priorities are, and then also go with your intuition as you're evaluating different decisions that you have to make.
Wow, that is a great takeaway. And how do you do that? How do you recognize all of that? It's, I would say, through getting to know yourself more, investing in yourself, and investing in your mindset, and having the right people to coach you with it.
Definitely.
So that's why we have the Powerpreneur Institute, and we are reinventing ourselves here with great topics. And this really helps me too, and whoever is doing the presentation, like you. It just we get to dive a little bit extra deeper on what even we should be working on. So I love it because there's so much that comes out of it.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you, Robert. And it was a pleasure having you. We'll see you again with a new topic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.